Hello, this is Edward Caston from Making It Happen. But before we start tonight's show, I would like to send all my prayers and thoughts out to the people in California in the bar shooting that lost their lives late last night. We don't live in a safe society anymore. It's sad. We all should learn how to love and feel safe. And on that note, I want to talk tonight about fire safety. And to my left, it's John Holland.
Hi, Ed.
Hi, thanks for joining me, John.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
So, John, what do you do at the fire department?
My job is, I have a pretty impressive title. It sounds pretty big. It's the public education specialist. I am the guy who goes out into the community and do the training for the public. Talk about fire safety, injury prevention, things like that.
Mm-hmm. And what got you interested in firefighting?
Well, actually, it's kind of odd that I ended up here because I was never one of those little kids that when you saw a fire truck go by, I was like, cool, look at that.
And some people grow up and they say, hey, I want to be a firefighter
Yep.
or a policeman or whatever.
Yep, and I was a teacher before this, and I got hired for the fire department because I was a teacher, because they wanted me to go out and teach. And then they trained me in firefighting
What
after that.
did you teach when you were a teacher?
I taught second grade. I taught 7-year-old kids. It was fantastic.
Did you have a hard time leaving teaching?
I did, yes. It was tough, but it was time.
This time? How many years were you a teacher?
I was a teacher for 3 years.
What was the biggest? Because obviously you're still a teacher. You're just teaching
Right.
fire
Right.
safety and fire stuff. What was your biggest reward about being a teacher? Because my mom's a teacher, so
Okay.
You know.
Just dealing with the kids, and for me it was to see that little aha moment when they got it. That always made my day.
Because some kids are a little slower than others, and I'm sure that you might have paid special attention to some of them, because some of them need a little bit more extra help.
You got it. Exactly right.
So that's very unique.
Mm-hmm. It is. I'm a lucky guy. I have a very unique job.
So as far as being an outreach specialist, do you run any educational programs, or do you help out with like what do you teach?
We teach all different things. A major portion of what we do is we go into the schools and we talk to kids from preschool all the way up through high school. Not so much middle and high school, a little bit, but not a lot. In fact, today I was at Oshkosh West, and we were talking about what it takes to be a paramedic. Mm-hmm. They have a class for careers in healthcare, and we were talking about that. But we also do, and there's no we, it's me, fire extinguisher training, evacuation planning. We talk to seniors about being safe, what to do. They're a very high-risk group for fire, so we want to make sure that we keep them safe and that they know what to do.
Speaking of safety plans,
Mm-hmm.
I want to make one thing very clear on this show. The reason why I'm doing this show tonight is I live in Marion Manor, and I have no idea what to do for a safety plan because I'm disabled,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm doing it for all the disabled residents out there plus elderly.
That's great.
What do we do in case there is a fire? Because no one's told me, not even management. So.
Okay. All right. Well, it depends. If the fire is in your apartment over at Marion Manor, then you would get out of there. Okay? Get out of that apartment the best you can.
But what if you live on the upper floor?
And if you're on the upper floor, and even if you don't live on the upper floor, if the fire is not in your apartment, and anybody for that matter, if they have mobility issues, if they need a wheelchair, walker, whatever, what they should do, your best bet, and it goes against everything you've ever been taught, is to stay put. Stay in your apartment. If the fire is not there, keep your apartment door shut, because that'll keep you safer longer. But don't leave unless you have to. Especially if you're upstairs, because you can't use the elevators.
What if fire is entering your apartment? Like, what if smoke is starting to come, through the crack or?
Yep. I would get on the phone and call 911 and let us know where you are.
Is
that you're stuck.
Is it okay to put a towel down there?
It is. It's a good idea to put a towel down there. For the most part, you're not going to get a whole lot of smoke down at the bottom, like you see in the movies and stuff, where you see the people put that, because the smoke goes up. So you're not going to get a lot of smoke coming through the bottom.
What if fire starts to enter your apartment?
Then you better get out of there. So if you're downstairs, and this is, then you need to go out a window or whatever. If you're upstairs, you would go to the window, open the window up, scream, holler, wave something bright out the window.
Like a tie-dye t-shirt?
Like a tie-dye t-shirt would work fantastic. Your gorgeous shirt you have on tonight would work very well, too.
Because you want to do something bright so you get their attention.
So you get our attention and scream and holler, and we will come up and get you.
Okay.
Because you don't want to jump from up high.
I thought about that. I'm like, rather than burn to death, I thought, I'm like...
Yep, you would only jump. The only time we ever want you to jump from upstairs
is if you had a safety net down below.
Well, but you're not going to have a safety net down below. But if the fire is coming right at you, then it's better to jump, and because you are going to get hurt, obviously, from jumping out an upstairs window. But if you stay up there with the fire and the smoke, it's going to get you, and you're going to get killed. So it's a horrible choice to have to make. But broken legs or arms or whatever are better than dying in the fire.
Is there something, in case somebody elderly or disabled would have to jump, is there something that the fire department can do as far as putting somebody down on the ground,
Well, if we're there, we don't want you to jump. We're coming to get you.
But what if the fire is so intense? What if it but what if it's so intense? You say you're going to come and get me, but what if it gets so intense and you don't have any other option?
Well, and it could be. Then you would have to jump. We don't have like a safety net. We don't have the great big. I don't know if you remember those in like cartoons, the big round things that it was like a trampoline, and it would be jump. We don't use those anymore. They worked well if you hit the middle of it. If not. Not so much.
Then you're a spider on the pavement.
Yes, exactly. So, and we will come up and get you. Even if there are flames coming out of your window, we're still coming up to get you. Your best bet is once that alarm goes off, once you hear the fire alarm go off, either shut that door and make sure it's shut to keep the fire out, because I know like at Marion Manor they have fire doors. So that's going to keep the fire out for about an hour.
Those are the black doors, yeah.
And you have to have them on your apartment. Your apartment doors they're not like the big black ones, but they'll keep the smoke and the heat and the fire out for about a half hour to an hour.
Is my apartment door is that kind of like fire resistant?
It is fire resistant. It'll take being in a fire for about an hour before the hour gets through, and that's a long time in a fire.
Oh, it'll take about an hour, huh?
Yep. So keep it shut if the fire is out there. If the fire is in by you, obviously that alarm goes off, then you got to get out of there. You got to get out as fast as you can if it's in there. The longer you wait, the more trouble you're going to be in.
Now,
and people think they have a lot of time, and
now,
you don't.
What if I was to tie something to the window, like a cord or a rope, or to get myself down? Let's say if I didn't want to jump,
I see now. I know what you're saying, and that works really well in the movies.
I know it does. And
we're afraid of you're gonna tie a really poor knot, or even just one bad knot if you're not anchored correctly, and then you're gonna fall regardless. So we'd like you to take more of a controlled jump.
What are some other ways, if I know if it's gonna be a long time? What are some other ways I can protect myself? I'm in my apartment. I'm in a safe place. Just calm myself down and say I'm in a safe place.
Yep.
And then what other steps can I do to keep myself safe?
Yep. And the fact that you're even thinking about it right now is a good way of keeping yourself safe. You're thinking about it before there is a fire, and that way, like you said, you have to keep yourself safe. If you are in your apartment and there is no fire coming in, you are very, very safe. But you do have to remind yourself that you're safe, because all our lives we've been taught, get out, get out, get out, and you know what's going on. But you have to remember that sometimes it is safer to stay inside, especially if you have mobility issues where you can't get around like the average person.
Okay. And like does a stop, drop, and roll still take an effect? Like if there's fire on you, do you recommend that? Because remember how they said when you were little to stop, drop, and roll?
Yep, and it does work. It still works. We still recommend it. What you are actually doing when you are stopping and dropping and rolling, you are using your body to smother the fire.
Okay.
And it works very, very well.
And what about if, what about if the fire gets on you? Do you recommend shower right away, or what do you recommend? Like if you're in your apartment and
if you get fire on you, you're going to be burned way too badly you're not going to want to put water on it. You're going to have at least a 2nd-degree burn. And then if you put water on it, you could make it worse. If you just touch a stove or something that's hot, yes, that's a 1st-degree burn. It'll just get pink. Then put cool water on it, not ice cold water. Don't put ice on it. Don't put butter on it. I don't know if when you were growing up, if you heard that. I'm older than you are, Ed.
Yep.
But my parents and the whole general knowledge was put butter on a burn, and it's one of the worst things you can do because butter has the oil in it, and it will actually make the burn worse. But it was always so don't do that.
Now let's say if you have a stove fire, is it true that you still smother it with baking soda? Because I remember some people doing that too, like put baking soda on it, it'll go out faster.
Yes, and it will. Baking soda does a really good job of putting out a fire. The only problem with that is that baking powder will actually make an explosion.
Okay.
So we would rather you had a little fire extinguisher because you know as well as I do, if you have a fire and you remember baking something and you pick the wrong one, that is not going to be good.
Then you're going to be a blow.
Yep, then it's going to be a lot worse. So, but baking powder, the short answer is baking powder does a very good job of putting out fires.
What is the life of a battery and smoke detector?
Smoke detector batteries last about a year tops. There are some new ones out there right now that actually have a 10-year battery. Okay. Which is fantastic. Then you don't have to worry about that battery for 10 years. But most people don't have those.
And my next question is, when should you get them checked?
Yep. Well, you should actually do the checking yourself. You should check them at least once a month.
Okay.
To make sure that they're working just by pushing a button, using a broom handle or whatever if it's up too high. The fire department, we actually have a program called Project Safe, which is smoke alarms for everyone. And we will come and check your detectors, make sure they're working. If you don't have enough detectors in your home, we'll replace them for free. We'll put new ones in for free, excuse me. Okay. If your batteries are dead, we will replace those for free as well.
Okay. Because I remember sometimes in the past I've heard my smoke detector just chirping. And
yep.
Does that mean the battery's dying?
That means the battery's on its way out. Yep, and it's time to get a new one in there. So we recommend it when you change your clocks like we just did.
Yep.
The thing is, when you change your clocks, change your batteries. And that way you do it twice a year, and you're sure that if you ever need it, God forbid, it is there for you.
Now I wanted to talk to you a little bit about CO2 detectors too. Mm-hmm. I don't think Marion Manor has them in the apartment, but what happens if, because you can't smell CO2.
Right, and it's carbon monoxide, and it's actually just CO. There is no 2 after CO. That's okay. CO, okay. A lot of people make that same mistake. CO2 is what you breathe out. That's carbon dioxide. Yep. Carbon monoxide, the CO detectors are great. They are required in buildings where, like I'm sure if Marion Manor has any appliances that burn fuel, if you have gas dryers, gas heat, gas stoves, then they are actually required to have them. In the common areas, in the hallways and stuff, they are required to have them if they have any gas burning appliances, and I'm not sure if they do or not.
I know our stoves are electric, and most of the appliances are electric.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And there might be a reason for that, and carbon monoxide might be part of that. And you're right. You can't smell it, you can't see it, you can't taste it. You won't know it's there unless
What
you
would
do
you
have a carbon
recommend?
monoxide detector.
What would you recommend with somebody that's elderly or has a disability that doesn't have a CO2 detector in their apartment or home? What would you say?
They need to get one. We don't have a program where we give those out, but you need to have one because, like you said, you can't see it. You will not know it's there unless you get very, very sick or worse. And the weird thing about carbon monoxide is it makes you feel like you have the flu. You get a very, very bad headache, you're throwing up, and it just continues to get worse. So a lot of people without that detector would have no idea that the problem was actually carbon monoxide.
They think maybe, oh, I just have the flu, it'll go away.
Yep,
you know?
yep, and it doesn't because it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And so without that detector, you are not going to know it's there.
Okay. Do you guys offer some educational programs for the elderly or disabled? Because you teach.
Yep, we do. I've already been at Marion Manor a few times doing a fire safety presentation. It's been a few years now. I have an appointment coming up for, it used to be Mainview, now it's Ralph's Place or
Yes.
whatever it is, to talk to the residents there. We will pretty much go anywhere that we're invited to go.
What do you usually do when you go and talk?
We talk about what to do when the fire alarm goes off. People don't leave, which is frustrating. And if they're in a wheelchair or they have a walker or cane or whatever, then that might be their best bet. But a lot of people that do live in places like that,
why do you think a lot of people don't leave it? Because they're precious stuff and they don't want to leave it behind?
I think that's part of it. I just think they think it's that they're going to be okay, and I wish that were the case. It's like that's nothing. It's kind of a pain for them to leave, and for me, it's like, well, the worst thing that could happen is you go outside for no reason. Yeah. The best thing is you save your life. That seems pretty easy.
I wouldn't want to burn to death.
No. And in most fires, the fire is not what's going to get you. It is going to be the smoke. The smoke is unbelievably deadly. It is poisonous. It is extremely hot, and it's extremely black. It's not the little puffs of smoke you see on TV.
How can you protect yourself from smoke, or how can you?
To protect yourself from the smoke, your best bet is to get down as low as you can get. Now, I understand people with disabilities or whatever, that might be more difficult. Maybe, like right now, Ed, maybe you are down as low as you can go. But you try to get down as low as you possibly can. Because that smoke is so hot, it goes up. So that's why you go down.
So it'll rise.
It'll rise, and you will see it. The line is like a straight line. It is very easy to see. This is where the air is really, really bad. This is where it's better. It's still not great. It's not like the air that you and I are breathing right now.
Mm-hmm. What do you do if you have a little bit of smoke inhalation and you guys are on your way?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do you do to help? I mean...
I would just stay put and wait for us, because you'll hear us coming. Obviously, we make a lot of noise. Because there's really nothing you can do. The problem is inside. So, and you will be coughing, and that actually does help.
Is that a good thing?
That is a good thing. The coughing helps work up the phlegm and whatever, and the smoke particles, and gets a lot of that out.
Do you have a story that you want to share of your early firefighter? Well, actually, have you ever been at a fire?
Sure. Oh yeah, a lot of fires. Yep. I don't know if I have a one story, but I would say I am always amazed at how good people are to each other, how good they take care of each other, their neighbors and whatever when there is a fire. We always hear about the bad things, like you started out your show with the horrible thing that happened in California today. Yep. We always hear about that. But when there's a fire or other emergencies, the neighborhood just rallies around and takes such good care of each other.
But why does it take a serious thing, or why does it take tragedy to do that?
I wish I knew, because obviously they care.
Yeah.
Because they're there, and
Yeah.
it's such a shame that it takes a tragedy for even for them to maybe even introduce themselves.
Yeah.
I can't believe For me, I think I have the greatest job in the world. I have just been able to help people every single day. I've seen some horrible things. I've seen some wonderful things, and it's just it's just great to work for the fire department, to work and live in the city of Oshkosh. I have lived here all my life, and for me, it's a great place to be. I remember when I was a kid, I wanted out, anywhere but Oshkosh, and like this is a great place.
Did you grow up in Oshkosh?
I did. Yes, I did. I grew up about a block from Marion Manor.
Okay. What's the one thing? I mean, obviously, I came to Oshkosh and I came to the university because people were very friendly. Do you find it the same way? People are always friendly and helpful.
I do actually,
You know,
and again, it goes back to we hear about the bad ones, but I think Oshkosh is very friendly, very helpful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've even had a thought, even before this program, Marion Manor and other apartment buildings should have you know how they have floor leaders?
Yes.
They should have fire leaders too.
Well, there's good and bad to that. I understand why you think that, but then what if that fire leader is not there when there's a fire?
True.
Then we have a problem, and then people always say, well, then we'll have a backup and da 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 da. But then it just turns into a mess. The best thing is, there should be education at these facilities, whether it's a resident meeting or whatever. The people in charge should talk about what if there is an emergency. They can always have us come and talk to them. I'm always happy to do that. But it is just, for you guys, probably your best bet, and it sounds horrible, is to look out for yourself.
Yeah.
And you can, if you are evacuating or whatever and you want to check on your neighbors, whatever, you pound on the doors as you go and just scream fire. But they're going to definitely hear the fire alarm.
Mm-hmm. Just to backtrack a little bit,
Sure.
a little bit now, Mark. Do you have any siblings that are firefighters?
I don't. I have a lot of siblings. None of them are firefighters. We do have, well, one's retired now, but we had two brothers that actually worked together here in the city of Oshkosh, and I know some of their sons have gone on to become firefighters as well. It is kind of a family thing. There is something in the blood there, I think.
And what kind of training does it take to be a firefighter?
Well, it used to be, if you were dumb enough to run into a burning building, we would say, come on.
Yeah, come on, let's go. Yeah, right.
Now it takes 2 years of a technical school education in fire science to be a firefighter. And then in Oshkosh, most of our firefighters are paramedics as well. Yeah. So that's another year and a half. And we won't hire anybody that's not both. And that way we can use you wherever we need you.
Yeah, if you need an ambulance or...
Yep, because we do the ambulance as well in Oshkosh. So that way our guys are trained for whatever comes their way.
What kind of CPR classes do you offer? Do you offer CPR classes?
We don't. We used to do CPR courses. We don't anymore. In fact, we haven't for a few years. I know Red Cross does do some of that.
Okay, and then what kind of education? You said you were at Oshkosh West today. You said, right?
Yes.
What kind of education do you do for the young youth?
For the youth, we do anything from fire safety to injury prevention to recruiting. Like, so you want to be a firefighter or whatever? What does it take?
Yeah.
We talk about what it's like. Because it is very different. In Oshkosh, the biggest difference, I think, from a normal job is that we work 24 hours on, from 7 in the morning until 7 in the morning, and then we have 2 days off. So we have 48 hours off, and then we just keep doing that. And some people love that, some people hate that, but it's very, very different than most jobs.
What's the biggest difference?
The biggest difference is just that when it's 5 o'clock or whatever, you don't go home.
Yeah.
you stay there.
Yeah.
And we do. There's beds there and things. We don't get a whole lot of sleep there. Firefighters are there, but they usually get calls in the middle of the night. You were talking about before the show started about fire alarms going off at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
We gotta go. So there's not a lot of sleep going on, even though they are in bed, and that gets tough. That gets very tough.
What's the biggest challenge and fear about being a firefighter? Because I'm sure you guys get scared too.
Oh yeah.
You know?
If you ever hear a firefighter tell you they're never scared, they're lying. And it's just, I think our biggest fear is doing something wrong so that somebody else gets hurt. You know what I mean? That we make a mistake where we could have saved somebody and we didn't.
Maybe even it could be a fellow firefighter. You know?
And worse yet, it could be a fellow firefighter. We never want to let our fellow firefighters down, and obviously we don't want anyone to get hurt or killed. But you are right. When you bring up another firefighter, that would probably make us feel the worst. That if we did something that hurt or worse another firefighter.
How many fires are done by, like, how many calls you get? Do they usually get in one night?
In one night, we'll probably in a day we get about 25 every day. They're not hardly any of them are for fires. Most of them are for ambulance. We get about 8,000 calls a year, and about 7,000 of those are ambulance calls. And the rest aren't all just fires. There's other things. We go to car accidents. We go to...
Or if somebody falls.
Or if somebody falls, things like that. In fact, falls are really on the rise. Of those 7,000 calls we talked about 1,000 of those are for people who fall.
I know that you say you do education is for elderly too.
Mm-hmm.
What if some elderly person has trouble with their balance, or like I have cerebral palsy, but I get up and walk every once in a while.
Okay.
But I fell a couple of years ago.
Yep.
Trying to answer my cell phone, trying to multitask.
Yep. Yeah, and I don't think none of us are very good at that. You need to a big one. Turn on a light at night when you're shuffling around your house. Get rid of throw rugs.
Yeah.
People slip and slide on those and get hurt. On stairs, slow down. Live on a one-story house, and that's easy for me to say. Yeah. But like your apartment, it's all one level. I don't know if you live upstairs, downstairs.
I live on 4th floor.
Okay, but you have the elevator to get you up there. Yeah. So it's just kind of slowing down, but being aware of your surroundings.
Never use the elevator in a fire, right?
Right. Never use the elevator in a fire. And it's not that people think that the elevator cord is going to burn and they're going to go crash into the ground. Mm-hmm. That's not going to happen. What we're worried about is if you are in that elevator and to get out, and as it's going down, the elevator opens up and the fire is right there, you are all trapped in that metal box, and there's nowhere to go.
Okay, John. Thanks for joining me.
You bet. You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
And this is Edward Caston for Making It Happen. Thank you, Oshkosh.